Yeah, so I think being a good artist, you never know, whenever you start a project, you never know what it's going to turn out as. And if you do know, it's going to be bad because you're not engaged in an active discovery. And so, when I work on an art project, I'll start it and I don't know what's going to come out of that process. And so, Quakerism and being an artist, they complement each other. They are constantly reinforcing each other and allowing me to be more creative and thoughtful and open. My name is Martin Krafft. I'm here in Schwenksville, Pennsylvania. I have attended Annapolis Friends Meeting, Atlanta Friends Meeting, Pima Friends Meeting in Tucson, Missoula Friends Meeting, and Rochester Friends Meeting. And I'm very glad to be a part of all those different communities. So I'm primarily a documentary filmmaker these days. I am working on a feature-length documentary about my friend Rachel's journey with terminal cancer. So I've spent the past year and a half working on that project of just trying to be present in Rachel's life. And yeah, I've ended up very invested in her life. She's like a family member at this point. And so I've had to kind of dedicate myself to this process of being present in her life. So I'm a man making a film about a woman who has had very little privilege in her life, and I've had a fair amount of privilege in my life. And so figuring out, how do I tell Rachel's story? How do I tell it truthfully while also balancing how Rachel wants to be seen? So I have all this power, and what I see as the truth is not always the same as what Rachel sees or wants to share. And so I'm filming her, and I have all these ethical questions about how much of Rachel do I show? How do I show her? How do I try to balance the power of showing her in ways that she feels good about without sugarcoating some of the more difficult parts of her life? And I think that really ties into Quakerism because I don't know. And every time you go into a meeting for worship, you don't know what's going to happen. It's this kind of open process for discernment where you're just trying to make yourself open to whatever piece of truth wants to present itself to you, and you just have to accept that process. So I think as a filmmaker, I just have to commit myself to that process. And as similar to being a Quaker and having to sit with the uncertainty of truth, I have to do that as a filmmaker too. Yeah, I've just been really grateful for the support that Quakers have shown for this process, and I think that making this film is kind of me putting my Quaker practice into action of living a life of discernment and trying to live a life of truth as much as I am able to. My spiritual beliefs are centered around the human capacity for creativity, of being able to be anyone. We can be anyone, we can do pretty much anything that we want. And that's a pretty magical opportunity that we all have.
Thanks for watching this Quaker Speak video. We release a new video every other Thursday. You can watch all our videos in this playlist here. You can subscribe to our channel by clicking this button here. You can support us through our Patreon here. Thanks again for watching, and have a happy Thursday.